impact on our economy in South Africa, and then following up, and what have you uncovered thus far?
Okay, so I received the tip off. I think last year, late last year. I think it was like December, just before the holiday break. Yeah, there was someone who was calling me and who was telling me about this strange happening, in the middle of the night, in Friday, where he is based, and he was saying he was noticing like there are these trucks that just rock up in the middle of the night, between midnight and 2 a.m., and then they just leave. And then I was asking him, okay, so what's strange about these trucks? And he was saying, it is strange because there is a transit pipeline there, and there's like these huge valves that these people, they open these valves, fill the fuel, and then they just leave. And he was telling me about how the whole town knew about this thing that was happening, but there was sort of like a code of silence. So people were communicating on WhatsApp in terms of what was happening. And he was forwarding me some of these WhatsApp chats on, on these groups of what is happening. So when I started to follow up on this thing, just to check out, the scale of it, and then I read some articles, and I'm like, okay, so this thing is happening. And then after the holiday break, I mean, the first big issue was this arrest of this guy.
Mm.
And what was strange to me, it was like this, it was one guy who was arrested, but there were four trucks and there were bakkies. Where's the rest of the people? So I called my source again, and he says, this is exactly how it happened. So when they're filling, the fuel along the pipelines, or they've opened these valves, so what happens is that there are lookout people across, the farm. So when the police are coming, they've already alerted each other. Okay, police are coming. You guys should go. And then one unlucky guy would be arrested.
Mm.
And then at times the police were saying, even the person that you're arresting is only the driver. Sometimes they didn't even know that they were going to steal fuel. They were just recruited like, okay, you're gonna just drive a truck, and this is the route, and then that's it. And then these people sometimes, even when they're arrested, they're not saying who it is.
Mm.
So to
Okay,
me,
so they are the foot soldiers. The kingpins are in hiding, obviously. What we also
hmm,
understand, Tabelo, is that the local farmers and farm workers, obviously, as you've just indicated, are aware of what is going on, but there seems to be a culture of fear.
hmm,
They possibly terrified. They've probably been threatened. I
yes,
understand there have been incidences of armed gangs that have intimidated and threatened them, so they're not willing to speak.
no, definitely they are not willing to speak. I mean, I have one conversation of a farmer who said, they just opened his gate. And another thing that makes this thing, scary is that these farms are far from everything else. So, it's like 20 kilometers outside of town. So even if the police were to come, they would come like after the fact. And also, it's a small town. It's literally one police station. So
Mm,
even sometimes, what I gathered when I was speaking to people, just on your point on the culture of fear, is that even if you report this thing, because now the criminal gangs, have ears and eyes everywhere,
mm,
that putting your life in danger as well, because there's like what, five police officers, and then somehow the information gets leaked elsewhere, and then your name comes up. So that's another thing that is adding to this. Is that, so it's adding to the fear as well. Is that even if you do report, sometimes the police they just don't pick up. And sometimes even if you do if even if you report, then your name comes up, and then people know who you are, and it puts your life in danger, because then even other criminals, then they know that on your farm there's a transnet pipeline valve. So they will come
Absolutely.
as well.
So you're putting yourself and your family's life at risk. Now, obviously, these pipelines that we're talking about is the property of Transnet. Transnet. I have no doubt that you have been in communication with them. And according
Mm.
to Transnet pipeline spokesperson Saret Knutse, there has already been 77 incidents of fuel theft this year alone, which means a loss of a literage approximately to the value of 3.5 million liters that has been stolen. However, she also goes on to say that there has been an improvement because they are ramping up security. And last year, this time, uh, there had been 141 incidents compared to this year, which is only 77 incidents. So it looks like they are in, they are involved in interventions, hopefully. That is going to enable them to reduce these thefts. But we do know it's not going to go away completely. What else have you learned as far as Transnet mitigating this theft?
Well, they've said that they are working with police. You know, there's a task team that is dealing with this issue. Hawks specifically are working on this issue, and I know that they have recruited other industry players to also play a role in this issue, like on the theft as well. I know the Hawks have also gone to Friday and other small towns in the Free State to just speak to the community as well, to alert them that there are other ways of reporting suspicious behavior and just make them aware of the dangers of, fuel theft and assure them of know that if they report, then they will remain anonymous and all of that. So it seems that there is something that is being done. But then again, just like 2 weeks ago, in 1 week there were 3 incidents in 1 week
Mm.
in that area as well. So you kind of like ask yourself, is it really getting better, or is it becoming worse? But what we do know that there are interventions to deal with this issue.
Okay, I just want to read a message from a listener and carry on with this very important story, which undoubtedly, Tabelo, is a developing story, which I'm sure you are still covering on an ongoing basis. Terry Lee Hewer, thank you indeed for making contact. You are suggesting that undercover cops are needed here. You also go on, your next message is we cannot have criminals like this threatening innocent people and doing as they please. It's not right. Terry Lee, I can't agree with you more. So let's just give you a scope or a scale, the scale of just how huge this operation is. Undoubtedly, it indicates that you've got top masterminds behind this. And I also get a sense that lots of insider information is shared with the criminals. So I'm going to share this information with you, and Tabela, I'm going to ask you to comment on it as well. The Transnet pipelines are amongst the largest forms of public infrastructure in the country. These pipelines are buried 2 meters beneath the surface, a lot of the times on farmlands as well. They span 3,800 kilometers across 5 provinces, pumping 250 million liters each week. Now, without the pipeline, we as South Africans would have very, very hazardous national roads Why? Because we would have 1,000, listen carefully, good people, we would have 1,000 more petrol tankers clogging our roads every day. Just think about what we know we have the worst accident rates in the world, amongst the world. Um, we have the highest accident rates in the world. Imagine what 1,000 more petrol tankers on our roads on a regular basis would mean to us as ordinary South Africans. Your thoughts, Tabelo?
I mean, the scale is huge. Um, Even the minister, Pravin Gordhan, last year in Parliament, he told people how much Transnet pipelines lost, in 2019-2020 financial year. He said about 102 million rand of fuel that they lost in just like one financial year. So you can imagine already there are 77 incidents, 3.5 million already of liters of fuel has been lost. So you can imagine it's only March. We don't know how many more incidents are going to take place. And so we continue to lose money out of this. And more worrying is that the environment impact, because when these things
Absolutely.
sometimes open these valves, they just leave the valve open, and then the diesel or petrol, um, it just gets out of the valves, and then it pollutes, the rivers, it pollutes the land, and this is farmland. So our food as well will be affected. Our rivers will be affected as well, and then because it's stolen fuel, these people are not paying tax. And tax, we need
Mm,
tax, especially right now. We need tax. So also there's that impact as well. And then the shortage of fuel, especially for inland the provinces, Gauteng, we need fuel. The farmers need fuel to farm, well, because now people decided to just steal. So again, that's like it impacts on us as well. It impacts on everything, and then we're going to see higher fuel prices. So I think it goes back to your intro to say we really cannot afford this, especially
mm.
now.
Absolutely. And it has really far reaching implications because, as you've just mentioned, the environmental impact, we understand that recently uh, the obviously the thieves um, didn't close the valves. They just take what they want and leave the valve chamber open, which resulted in a massive diesel spillage in the nearby Mule River. And environmental teams had to be called in to clean up the toxic mess. Look at the cost again, which is having which is being carried by the authorities concerned. Over and above of that, you talk about the impact on food. As it is, we have a food security issue in our country. This is further going to exacerbate that situation. So, moving on, then, I'm kind of wondering what else can we as the general public be doing? What else or what more should Transnet be doing? And how does government then come to the party? We know SAPS is under resourced. Does this perhaps suggest that we need to get, and I know people would cringe at this next comment that I'm making, but perhaps do we need to get SANDF involved to possibly guard and protect these very valuable resources of the country?
No, not. I mean, not a bad suggestion at all. I mean, we need all hands on deck at the moment, because really this is like a big issue. And also just to add on, on the impact. I mean, the impact of life as well. There has been, deaths as well of after fuel theft has happened, because it is a fire hazard. Especially like in the hot weather, all you just need is, someone with a matches or a lighter, and then there was a spillage that happened, and you can imagine, I mean, the explosion that will take place. And also when this thing happened and, fuel is oozing out of these valves, sometimes the communities, they come with buckets, to
Oh,
dip it. And
yeah.
also, so you can imagine the danger as well of that. And then coming to security as well, I think I think government, they need to do more, Transnet to do more. And also, I think I mentioned in the article that there is a security tender, which they advertised as well. I think in 2020, to say that they're looking for sophisticated security, drones, spies, private
Mm.
security, armed private security, and it hasn't happened. They are still looking at it. And then when I do ask in terms of why then it has taken over a year, because clearly there's a problem and it has taken a year just to hand out, just to award the security or the security contract. And they were saying no, they cannot comment any further, but they are still, evaluating. So I'm not sure what the delay is there, and we cannot afford a delay under
I
any circumstances.
Right. I presume you're going to follow on this developing story. We can't forget about it and just think, well, we've done our investigations, we filed the story, we've done a couple of interviews. It's now up to the authorities. amaBhungane is more committed uh, to issues that they raise than just leaving it there. So hopefully you will be giving us an update sometime soon. Let's wrap up by saying that theft of fuel is one of the less publicized forms of crime in this country, but it's believed to be operated by armed syndicates suspected of having deep and far reaching tentacles who also engage in illegal mining and cable theft. Final thoughts from you, Tabelo Timse, and thank you indeed for filing this very important story.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely be doing a follow up because there are more questions than answers. I know Transnet has been saying that so far there hasn't been anyone from Transnet arrested in connection with this or the SAPS. But I mean, this doesn't happen out of the vacuum. It's not a lucky situation where the thieves happen to know when exactly and where exactly are the pipelines and when is the fuel going to be pumped. So there's definitely more to this story, and we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on it.
And as I indicated earlier on in the interview, that this smacks of insider information. Random thieves or criminals can't just know these type, understand the infrastructure and just rock up and go and steal the fuel. This is insider information being fed to these criminal syndicates. But nice talking with you. We will catch up again sometime soon in the future. Have a wonderful Human Rights Day. Thank you indeed for filing the story and go well.
Thank you so much.
That was journalist at amaBhungane, Tabelo Timse, talking to us about the Transnet fuel theft that has been ongoing for a long time, costing Transnet millions and millions and millions of rands in stolen fuel. The time is exactly 8:43. This is News and Views right here on Salam Media.